Welcome to another episode of The Very Online Show, a giant bomb production that features myself and Lucy James, who are so plugged into social media that we've seen more people at each other's throats than Count Dracula. And joining us is Jeff Bacala, who has the sweet blood of an innocent coursing through his veins.
Also a vampire.
No, you can't be a vampire. You're this
That's
sweet.
not the
You have the
metaphor.
sweet blood of an innocent. Stop
You're an
ruining my
innocent.
metaphor.
No, there are nice. I assume there are like wholesome vampires out there. I fit
Blade.
the pasty bill. Like
Cedric
who I am.
Diggory.
At this point, you're kind of like an Alucard, maybe.
No.
okay.
Well,
Jeff is firmly, for this metaphor, for this pained metaphor, Jeff is firmly an innocent with sweet blood coursing through his veins, and we have to make sure that no one on the internet sinks their teeth into him and starts slurping it all up, you know? Like,
Thank you for protection. Thank you.
apologies. How do we do this? How do we prevent Jeff from being slurped? Well, we explain to our good friend what the hell is going on with the internet so he doesn't invite any digital vampires in.
Were you like watching Castlevania or something when you wrote this? Or,
I was
like...
listening to the Symphony of the Night soundtrack when I was writing this.
Okay, there's the connection.
Depending on your perspective, this show is either Jeff voluntarily rotting his brain for your entertainment so you can be a little more in the know, or it's Lucy and I doing our best to take all the nonsense that's rattling around in our brains and using it to educate Jeff, and by extension, educate you. Jeff.
Yes.
How do you feel about pineapple on pizza?
Oh, okay. It's not my like thing. I would eat it. I have had it before. I'm not against it.
If I had a gun to your head,
Jesus.
over
Over pizza?
And I said you need to give me an answer on whether pineapple should be on pizza or not. Which one would you say?
I'd probably say no.
Jeff, I'm going to need you to pick up your phone.
Roger?
Okay?
No, his name's Tam.
Oh, sorry, I get confused.
I'm going to need you to open Twitter.
Twitter.com?
Yeah, whatever you use to tweet.
Twitter.ca.
I'm going to need you to tweet, pineapple does not belong on pizza.
No!
All
Do
caps, all caps
Please,
not.
please do this.
All caps not.
For real?
Yeah.
Yes.
Dude, we've not agreed to this, okay? Like, look, just because I think it doesn't mean I'm going to tweet it. And also,
Tweet it, Jeff.
There's tons of shit I think of every single day where I'm like, should I tweet that? Probably
I'm
not.
going to need you to tweet it.
I'm not doing it. I'm not going to do it.
I'm going to need you to tweet it.
Why do I have to do this? This is not what this show is. What will I be learning? Tim,
It's an exercise.
It's just an exercise. We'll see what happens.
Fucking Christ. All right. What? Well,
You don't
That's
have to
not- but-
all caps not if you don't feel like it. I just think
Pineapple does not belong on pizza. This is not something I would say.
You could feel free to put it in your own
You
words.
can editorialize it if you need
Yeah.
to. We just want to see what happens.
Hockey, pinball, pineapple doesn't belong on pizza.
Yeah.
The holy trinity of Jeff.
So I was just cleaning my keyboard caps and I thought to myself, pineapple doesn't belong on pizza.
Do I really have to do this?
We would prefer it if you did.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now I gotta craft it in a way that, dude, you should have let me like some time. But Jeff tweet, as bad as they are, still takes a little bit of like curation and come to think of it.
Come to think of it, while Jeff is doing this, I'm gonna carry on. Okay. The pineapple on pizza debate is, in my opinion, one of the most chronically boring discussions on the internet.
Yet I still should be
keep tweeting.
Yep, keep tweeting, please. Keep tweeting. According to this article on Spoon University,
I'm sorry. I'm gonna go to Spoon University.
I'm going to Spoon University. This article actually very informative, written by Michaela Gillis, I believe, of Boston College. It lists the debate as getting real spicy in 2017 when this
when people got bored.
When this tweet went viral. What's poppin' Twitter? Retweet to ruin a pineapple on pizza haters timeline.
Oh my god.
And this is a pizza. Jeff, how do you feel about this pizza?
That's fucking abhorrent.
Wow.
What is that?
That's pineapple on pizza, baby.
No, that's not how you do it. When pineapple gets on pizza, it's got to be spaced out. I don't even see the cheese. You're also talking to like a northeastern person and pizza. It's a very
Sacred.
sensitive,
Yeah.
sacred subject matter here.
Yep.
Hence the amount of time it's taking for me to craft this.
I was gonna say, I'm just looking. All I can see here is you threatening to fight Eye Patch Wolf.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
he said some shit. So.
I just needed a quick pineapple doesn't belong on pizza. Go. As an experiment.
I didn't expect this would be, Yeah,
I didn't expect
half
this
the
to be
episode.
like a moral battle for Jeff Bacala. Of course,
here, ready? It's coming out.
Okay,
It's coming
okay,
out.
okay. I've been forced to take a stance on this for reasons that will be clear later, but it's true. Pineapple does not belong on pizza.
That works.
I retweet it.
Retweet.
Of course, after that,
Is that what I sound like?
Yeah.
No, there was this show I used to watch on Comedy Central where they had a segment called Retweet, and it was just this guy used to say that every time we retweeted something. Anyway, thank you.
So this tweet went viral, and everyone with access to Twitter had something to say about it. Naturally, around the subject matter of pineapple pizza, some people were in favor of it, like Justin Trudeau for some reason. Who
Do you
tweeted,
think not like his fucking people would be like his team would be like, okay, Justin, we've ran the polls, and here's how people are leaning.
Yeah, they're killing you in the QRTs, but you need to talk about pineapple and pizza.
He took ownership of this though too.
Yeah, he said, I have a pineapple, I have a pizza, and I stand behind this delicious Southwestern Ontario creation. # Team Pineapple at Canada.
At Canada.
I love how he
just
added
at
Canada.
Canada. I love
Others, like this, were very against it, such as this unnamed pizza chef who apparently, when given an order for pineapple on pizza, simply wrote, couldn't bring myself to do it, to put pineapple on it. That's gross. Sorry. And then returned it with a $5 bill attached to the inside of the box.
How much could a pineapple cost, Michael? $10?
Nice.
Either way, the back and forth between pro-pineapple on pizza and anti-pineapple on pizza has been going for years. It's cyclical and it gets really, really heated.
But it's harmless though. Like,
Yeah.
right? But
Unless
am
you
I
eat too
about
much
to
of
learn?
it, doesn't it like burn your mouth a little?
Right, it's acidic
Yeah.
as fuck. Yeah.
But like not when it's cooked. When it's cooked, it's fine.
yeah.
So this got me thinking, why do we argue on social media about pineapple on pizza and pretty much anything else? So on this episode of the Very Online Show, I actually wrote in the script, so in this episode of Pineapple on Pizza.
We're rebranding everybody.
It's pineapple on pizza.
We are going to try and look into the science and psychology behind arguing on social media. So the first thing to get out of the way is that we argue for many, many reasons. We're verbally sparring with people on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram or pretty much any other social space for many complex reasons. So this isn't a be-all and end-all definitive breakdown of why. Sometimes the answer is as simple as some people like to just be shitty on the internet. But there's also other factors at play. As a starting point, we're going to look at Dunbars Number.
Oh,
Jeff, are you familiar with Dunbars Number?
I've heard of it. Isn't it about like how much attention you can devote to something?
Oh my God, someone's replied to that tweet with kiwis on pizza.
Oh no. Oh no.
That looks
Oh
wild.
no!
I'm
First of all,
sorry, but that is a fucking crime.
I'm
Twitter
into that.
deemed that,
I'm into
a
that.
hidden reply for me, by the way. So I had to click to look at that.
It like at first glance, it looks foul, like in a way that you're sort of like, "Ooh, I'm seeing a bad thing," and my stomach is turning a bit.
Yeah,
Like that
I
is
think-
truly scary.
yeah,
Grub's,
that is
Grub's
terrifying.
response is very good.
Grubs, yeah, you know.
You ain't God.
So,
Thank God.
Dunbars Number. So,
I didn't
Dunbars
know
Number
about this. So.
was developed in the 90s by
Wait, was I
British-
right? I was right.
I forgot you said. I just moved on.
I said it deals with like how much you can pay attention to a given amount of things or something
Yes,
like that.
yeah. Oh, kind of. You're partially correct. So I'll give
Okay.
you half a point.
I'll take it.
You get partial
just to-
credit.
Just a
Fine.
reminder, at the end of this season, we will be adding up all the points. And currently, Lucy and
Oh.
I have 800 and you have half a point.
All right, I like my odds.
Dunbar's Number was developed in the 90s by a British anthropologist called Robin Dunbar.
Oh, you mean Dunners?
Dunners, yeah. You know Dunners?
Dunners.
Seen him down a pub a lot of times. Only talking to a select number of people.
I
Why?
like this. I like that I feel a part of it. That feels good.
Dunbar looked into the relationship between the size of primate brains and the average size of social groups. And Dunbar found a correlation. And then by looking at data using primates and extrapolating it, the findings to while taking into account the average size of the human brain, Dunbar proposed that humans can maintain stable relationships with 150 people.
It still feels like too many.
Oh, okay. That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
According to Dunbar, Lucy, can you read this quote?
According to Dunners, this
What?
limit this limit is a direct function of relative neocortex size, and this in turn limits group size. The limit does not exist. The limit imposed by neocortical processing capacity is simply on the number of individuals with whom a stable interpersonal relationship can be maintained.
So Dunbar's number, unsurprisingly, has been used in the creation of modern social software and spaces, and it seems that Dunbar's assertions carry weight even today. For example,
Do you think that Dunners feels like the guy in Terminator 2 who accidentally causes... who accidentally creates the Terminators, and Dunners is just kind of sitting there like, what have I done? We've got to destroy it, used in the creation of social media.
That's exactly it.
yeah, just holding his pint going. For example, the National Library of Medicine has a paper that models Twitter user activity to see how valid Dunbar's number is today. And Lucy, can you read the abstract and the findings, basically?
Do you want a fun fact about when I was studying psychology at uni? Pretty much
No,
only ever
but
read,
I'm sure you're going to give it to us.
pretty much only ever read the abstracts of shit.
That's there you go.
It's the TLDR. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Microblogging and mobile devices appear to augment human social capabilities,
Yep, you got it.
which raises the question whether they remove cognitive or biological constraints on human communication. In this paper, we analyze a data set of Twitter conversations collected across 6 months involving 1.7 million individuals and test the theoretical cognitive limit on the number of stable social relationships known as Dunbar's number. We find that the data are in agreement with Dunbar's result. Users can entertain a maximum of 100 to 200 stable relationships. Thus, the economy of attention is limited in the online world by cognitive and biological constraints, as predicted by Dunner's theory. We propose a simple model for users' behavior that includes finite priority queuing and time resources that reproduces the observed social behavior.
So, according to Dunners, people can maintain a good relationship with between 100 and 150 people, according to the study, 200. And Dunbar specifically says these are stable relationships. And by that, we mean they can have ups and downs, agreements and disagreements. They can like each other and then dislike each other, but ultimately still maintain a healthy, amicable, and reasonable relationship with these people. It's kind of like the way you both, or pretty much everyone, probably have someone in your family or friend group that you're close to, but you know also has some questionable positions or perspectives or ideas, but you can still be chill with them. You're not burning that bridge, but even though you know, like, bit of a weirdo. So that's kind of like a stable relationship.
Okay.
On social media and social networks, we're not connected to 150 people. We're connected to hundreds or thousands of people, both actively as people you follow or they follow you, or passively as people you just encounter on a day-to-day basis. Like for most people, the people that they encounter on social spaces are in the hundreds and thousands. So with that many connections and considering Dunbars number and what it means, most of us aren't able to maintain what's called a stable relationship, which means frequent arguments.
Okay. That's an interesting way of getting around to the crux of it.
In 2017, Juliana Schroeder, Michael Cardes, and Nicholas Epley from UC Berkeley and University of Chicago published a paper called The Humanizing Voice, Speech Reveals and Context Conceals, a more thoughtful mind in the midst of disagreement. In that paper, they posited the following. Lucy, can you read this chunk of text?
A person's speech communicates his or her thoughts and feelings. Beyond conveying the contents of a person's mind, a person's speech also conveys mental capacity, such that hearing a person explain his or her beliefs makes the person seem more mentally capable, and therefore seem to possess more uniquely human mental traits than reading the same content. We expected this effect to emerge when people are perceived as relatively mindless, such as when they disagree with the evaluator's own beliefs. 3 experiments involving polarizing attitudinal issues, I don't think I've ever said that word before, and political opinions supported these hypotheses. A 4th experiment identified paralinguistic cues in the human voice that convey basic mental capacities. These results suggest that the medium through which people communicate may systematically influence the impressions they form of each other. The tendency to denigrate the minds of the opposition may be tempered by giving them, quite literally, a voice.
So what they said was basically the format we communicate in has an impact on the way we communicate. When we talk to each other, we factor in a variety of things from the interaction that ultimately make us think, hey, this person seems smart, they're pretty cool, they're human like me, I'm going to respect them even if I disagree with them. However, when we're reading the words of a person, they don't have a voice, literally. And we don't make those same assessments, which means humans are more inclined to start fights, pop off, and talk shit when they're reading something from a person than they're hearing that person speak it to them.
Sure.
Which is wild.
Which explains everything.
Yeah. The Irish Times published a piece back in 2015 called Why Do We Argue?
And you say, in my head, I hear it with an Irish accent, though.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that.
No.
I just hear John saying it, yeah.
I just hear John and Danny saying it at the same time. So this article was written by Patrick Frayne, and it says, the internet is now the world's #1 debating forum, but online arguments is more bitter and less productive than face-to-face discussion. Why do we do it, and does anyone ever win? The article quotes psychologist John Suler, who said the following. Lucy, take it away.
In the old days, most of what people did online was to join some kind of discussion group, so ongoing discussions, sometimes leading to arguments, were inevitable and part of the online lifestyle. There are just so many more people online now that it just seems like there is more argumentativeness. With many people striving for their 15 minutes of fame by pronouncing their viewpoints, we all have gotten used to online proclamations about something or other, proclamations easily disagreed with by someone.
Proclamations like Jeff Bacala, who tweeted, pineapple does not belong on pizza.
Yes.
Most of the time, in an online argument, people aren't coming from a place of good faith, and the intention isn't to help another person understand a perspective, which then they can hold alongside their own, which they believe in. Most online arguments come from a place where the intention is to correct someone else's position. Or they're trying to show why a person's understanding of a group which they belong to is wrong.
Wait,
So
I think
in
if you want this perfectly illustrated, it's actually I think you'll find.
Yeah, exactly. Most people on the internet are actually instead of being like, hey, I understand, I see this position. Have you also considered? In that same article, Dr. Kieran McMahon, I think that is, from the Royal College of Surgeons in the Ireland Institute of Leadership, specifically the Cyber Psychology Research Center, said that people construct online identities and at the same time narcissism is a trait that is on the rise. So as people are formulating their online identities, they tether themselves to a specific viewpoint, and then they mark that ideological territory. So here's what Dr. McMahon said about that. Lucy?
But the internet is a shared and communal space. While it's almost entirely privately owned, we treat it like a public sphere, like a commons or wilderness. We each try to mark out our own personal corners, as in our social media profiles, though, unlike marking out our physical spaces like a garden or allotment, we can't easily fence them off. When you realize that anyone can read what you put online, link to it, and pass comment on it, you could only conclude that the internet is fundamentally a contested space.
Sure.
Yep. Beefing. The internet is basically designed to be a public space
For beefs.
that encourages fighting.
Yeah, but like, we don't have to get into like the whole thing, but like, I think that's what that's what it cultivates, right? Like, it is a whack-a-mole.
But it's not called, contention or arguing. It's called engagement.
Engagement.
Well, sure.
It's like over the years, the kind of rise in popularity of debate culture, debate Andes, is a perfect example of the internet is kind of fulfilling its promise, or it's like the thing that it was designed to do, or it was designed for something else, but ultimately the way it was designed was inevitably going to lead to what we have now, where we got people constantly fighting.
Impossible to avoid.
Yeah.
Tam, stop me if this is going ahead in your thing, but like, Jeff, did your school ever have debate club? I never.
Sure.
What's that about? We're British. We don't have it. We don't have arguments.
So I never participated in it, but the sort of like spirit behind it is basically persuasion. It's more persuasion than it is debate, because the way I understood it was like people took a side of each talking point, and whoever made the more compelling argument, that compelling argument was judged. It was basically judging rhetoric, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Which I believe is to be incredibly dangerous, and like
of
incredibly,
course,
because it doesn't teach you. It teaches you how to. It's the same way as studying law. It doesn't teach you how to convince people or present. It just teaches you how to argue.
It teaches you how to be a con person. Yeah. Right. Like, that's what it does. Yeah.
And now it's and the kind of emphasis put on it being a good thing is immediately evident. If you go online and you search for debating, you are inundated with articles that talk about the positive nature of debating. And the society is kind of like trained almost to believe that people who are good at debating are smart and good people. But you also look at, we're getting a bit political here, but then you look at conservative or like people who have really obviously shitty takes, like fucking Stephen Chowder and Ben Shabibo. Like fucking, they are always trying to debate people because because that's the only way they know that they know society is built in a way that if you win a debate, which the way you win a debate is not by arguing it's by employing certain rhetorical tactics to kind of overwhelm the opponent.
Yeah.
If you win a debate, people will be like, great, you're the smart person. And that is categorically incorrect.
Yeah, if I asked him to debate and he wouldn't because he knows he's wrong is also the phrasing that I also hate. But also, like, in society, it's always called a healthy debate.
It's not. It's never a healthy debate, no.
It doesn't have to be.
So if you take all that stuff that we just talked about and learn about and couple it with the fact that social networks are a place where, as previously mentioned, reading people's words literally robs them of their humanity, and the fact that it's super easy to misunderstand what's being said or accidentally read something as an insult and then put that together, it kind of explains what is going on with people constantly arguing on the internet. On the flip side, some are more like inclined to actually just insult each other and be aggressive, and naturally like that also is going to lead to major arguments. So going back to Sula, Sula also talks about something very similar to what Schroeder, Cardus, and Epley did, called online disinhibition. Lucy, can you read this?
When you cannot see or hear the other person, the lack of visual and auditory cues tends to make people more bold in what they say. You can't see a frown on someone's face or hear anger in that person's voice, which would otherwise cause you to tone down your argument. The arguer even forgets that another real, alive person exists at the other end of his or her words. The diminished sense of the presence of the other person as a result of these in-person missing cues also causes people to project their own expectations and anxieties onto the person being debated.
Sula actually goes one step further, I guess a bit Freudian, and says that in a lot of cases, people kind of copy and paste in other people they're familiar with to be stand-ins for whoever they're arguing with online, because they don't have a good kind of understanding of who that person is. It's a blank in their mind. So they put someone else in there to argue at. Lucy, can you read this quote?
The other person feels a bit anonymous, mysterious, unknown, so transference reactions tend to occur. Which means that the other person is unconsciously perceived as some other significant person in one's life. Persistent, emotional arguers in online debates are often really arguing with their mother, father, wife, husband, or themselves.
There you go.
Paging Dr. Freud.
Yeah, this is a little...
Yeah. One of the most interesting parts of this Irish Times article is the discussion around physical space that social interactions are launched from. McMahon says that in most cases, people are writing their messages in spaces that have a degree of privacy. That may be a physical space that's quiet, but even if you stretch it to your phone screen, you're usually the only person looking at it when you're on social media. So there's a degree of privacy out there in that scenario as well. It's not like when I write a tweet, Lucy's looking over my shoulder. I mean, like not most of the time, but sometimes.
Right.
But like, when Jeff is writing that tweet about pineapples, he did it without, Stacey being behind him being like, what are you doing over there?
Yeah. No, it's just, you guys forcing my hand and creating this horrific thing now.
A harsh word.
What's that?
A harsh word, forcing.
Forcing, yeah.
Forcing?
Encouraging.
Okay.
Gently encouraging, yeah.
Sure, yeah. I mean, you didn't...
healthy encouragement.
You didn't push the button.
No,
right?
it's true.
Yeah.
And that's what we'll say in court.
Sounds like it.
I did not fire the gun, Your Honor.
Oh, no.
But when you put your tweet out there, you've got millions of people in a public space looking at it. And also, you can be more targeted. Can you read this?
So, there is quite a gulf between instantly public global communication and these very, very private thoughts. So, a private thought, that guy is an idiot, can easily become an undelectable public announcement.
Undeletable.
No.
Not undelectable. It's not bad taste.
I don't know.
I mean, it is, but also.
Yeah. Can easily become an undeletable public announcement. You are an idiot. People have been calling each other idiots for a very long time, but never before in such epic terms. If you say something nasty now to my face, I might not have a quick comeback, says McMahon. On the internet, I've time to word my response to you properly, edit it, research it, and rewrite, perhaps even find an image of you and deface it. Online, the potential to choose and sharpen conversational weapons means arguments ramp up and become emotionally charged faster than face-to-face.
Of course, one of the other major factors that leads to arguments is the immediacy with which you can post or clap back. And in arguments, you usually are heated, which is when you start to say really stupid things. Because of the way social media works, there's no cool-off period. The moment you say something, the other person can reply, or another person can like it, or another person can share it by retweeting it or quote tweeting it. And then you're basically stuck in this like fiery maelstrom constantly. Ugh. There's no point where that heated feeling can dissipate.
Sounds terrible.
Yeah, it is terrible. McMahon says that although we're capable of rational thought, we're not wired for it online.
I like what he did there with wired.
Yeah,
exactly.
He really laid into the pun.
When you're online and in that space, we're wired for competing against each other. We're not wired to find truth. We're wired to win. And winning in a place like Facebook and Twitter isn't, like most people would think, changing someone's mind or shifting their perspective. On social networks, you win in the same way you win in a gladiatorial arena. You deal a killing blow that makes the other person submit, and then you get the watching crowd's applause and acceptance that you are the victor. So it's basically that moment where Joaquin Phoenix does the thumbs down thing.
Right.
And,
And then there's a guy running around in jeans in the background.
Yeah.
I gotta say, my
Mm-hmm.
friends, you really have forced me into some fucked up discourse. In a way, like people are upset. They're telling me, they're asking me what it's like to be a culinary idiot. I feel like I've gotten some unfollows as a net result of all this, which I will bill you for.
I will transfer. I will Venmo you a follower. Imagine if you could do that. Imagine if you could send followers.
I mean, it's
That would be
currency to a
wild.
lot of people.
Yeah. Another quote from McMahon. Lucy, please.
Oh, sorry, I got really caught up in Jeff's replies.
Yeah, thanks. Oh, you mean the thing you did? You mean, yeah, you're caught up in that thing you did.
Caught up. Oh no, it's the consequences of
Of
my
my
actions.
Of your own actions, yeah.
Of your actions, Jeff. We didn't do anything. To change anyone's opinion takes longer. You can convince people with a straight, logical, clear argument, but that usually only happens in a minority of cases, when the other person has no opinion whatsoever and when they are open to be persuaded. Presenting a person who already has an opinion with a list of facts about how they're wrong is seldom effective.
And that is pretty much how everyone talks, argues, debates on Twitter. It's not convincing. It's like, these are all the reasons you are wrong. And that's why the arguments happen and continue to happen and then drag. One last idea that I've seen brought up a few times and I think is relevant is the Superman complex or the superhero complex. Are you familiar with that?
Maybe like the fact that
Kinda.
like you won't, that things that affect other people won't affect you.
Yeah, you get another half point. You got 1 point, Jeff. Yeah, love to see it.
Now we're playing.
So the Superman complex or the superhero complex is believed to have been first used by in the 1954 book Seduction of the Innocent by Dr. Frederick Wortham, and also in his testimony before the Senate subcommittee on juvenile delinquency.
Oh.
So how the Superman complex has been interpreted has changed over time. Originally, it was about the way people tend to get some sort of pleasure by watching someone else beat down / defeat another opponent while they watch from a safe distance, free from being caught up in the battle. Even with that interpretation, it's pretty relevant to social networks of these days, right? Like people watch other people arguing and it feels good. However, it's also been used to refer to a sense of responsibility and a need to save others. So basically, this is one of the key driving factors behind many of the keyboard warriors we see instigate arguments or debates. Basically, it's the idea that the world is going to shit, apocalypse is happening for one reason or the other, and people develop this complex where they believe that they're the only one who can stop that from happening. And the only way to stop that from happening is by making other people adopt similar ideologies as them or see some subject matter from the same correct world-saving perspective as them. Does that make sense?
It's a real fight or flight response.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like if you have that complex, you see something happening and you're like, well, I got to make sure everyone else sees it the way I do, because that's the only way that collectively we can steer away from this thing happening.
Bit culty, innit?
A little bit, yeah. Like I said earlier, there are many, many reasons why people argue and start fights on social networks. On top of all that we've discussed, there's cognitive dissonance, which is there's a sense of discomfort that comes from trying to hold two conflicting beliefs or values or perspectives or ideologies at the same time. And at the same time, we live in a world where we're bombarded with so many positions that being able to effectively navigate cognitive dissonance is pretty crucial to being online right now. And some people are just incapable of doing it. So they see people telling them that something which challenges them. And instead of trying to understand it and then hold that perspective alongside their own side by side and be like, I believe this, but also I can understand this, they instead try and sidestep the mental discomfort from trying to do that by fighting back against the incoming information. So confirmation bias also plays into that, because then you start selectively reading, watching, listening to, and accepting information and viewpoints that only reinforce your own, because you're incapable of holding those two opposing perspectives together, because it makes that sense of discomfort is too much for you. And when you have that confirmation bias, you just create the vicious cycle of dissonance that keeps you arguing. You have your own beliefs reinforced, and because you're unable to accept that other people might have different beliefs that are also valid and accept them into your worldview, you start arguments and you start fighting. So, with all that said, should we try and stop arguing on the internet? The answer is pretty much obviously yes, but it's a more resounding yes now than ever before.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pew Research published a article that it has the headline, a majority of teens have experienced some form of cyberbullying. And in this article, which was published in 2018, it's based on it included findings from a survey of 743 teens and 1,058 parents living in the US, and it was conducted between March 7th to April 10th of 2018. And it showed that 59% of teens in the US have been bullied or harassed online. And obviously, they believe it's a major problem. The article was written by Monica Anderson, and it goes on to say that a lot of these teens believe teachers, social media companies, and politicians are failing to tackle the issue. So the article is pretty in-depth, and it goes, so I've broken down some of the statistics, and this kind of like paints a good picture of where people are at. The most common type of harassment youths encounter online is name calling. And name calling is quite a broad umbrella. These days, the name calling that you might think of when you hear the term name calling is like, you're a poopy head, which is like some 60s era name calling. These days, it is way, way worse. People have reached a level of creative. People are fucking Pablo Picasso of name calling out here right now. They're doing shit that people have never seen before.
Yeah, I've seen Euphoria.
Yeah, exactly. Some 42% of teens say they've been called offensive names online or via their cell phone. A third, which is 32% of teens, say someone has spread false rumors about them on the internet. 16% have been the target of physical threats online. A quarter of the teens said that they have been sent explicit images that they didn't ask for.
A quarter?
Yeah, of those teens, yeah. 7% said that someone has shared explicit images of them without their consent. And similar shares of boys and girls have been harassed online, but girls are way more likely to be the target of online rumor spreading or non-consensual explicit message sharing. And why is this more important now than ever? Because social media is more capable of turning online disagreements into real-world violence than ever before. And if you need an example of that, you may have remembered how a bunch of people attacked the Capitol recently. Where did that start? That started off as an online discussion and an argument and disagreement of perspectives. And there are various articles that I started reading, and then they made me so sad that I just decided not to bring them up, of people killing each other based on DMs on Instagram. And it was devastating, like genuinely teens being shot, killed just because of some online arguments, which, like I said, I didn't want to get into the details of because it's a huge bummer, but it's happening, and it's happening a lot. So, Jeff, how do we stop arguments? How do you look at those people replying to you right now and find the power to not?
I don't know how you do it, but I think what needs to happen, and again, I don't claim to come from some sort of like last generation of human that straddled the sort of digital divide, right? Where like, you know, by the time I was like 12, I was heavily online, right? So I've lived the majority of my life on the internet. But there is a undeniable advantage to having a core portion of my life touching grass. And I think the more that is encouraged at an earlier age to touch grass and to actually have human to human interaction, maybe that better prepares you for the deep, dark future you are inevitably going to enter, where you have to deal with just faceless garbage people on the internet. So I don't know how you enact that. I don't know how you put that into practice. But the more people understand that a human being sits on the other side of the connection, the better we are. I've experienced that firsthand. Starting a podcast in 2007 and having, the first brave idiots commenting and telling me how much of a piece of shit I was, writing back and say like, hey, I'm an actual person. The apologies you get for that, I'm sure you both are very familiar with that very repeatable sequence of events. That is what happens, right? People, the second people are faced with the idea of like, oh, right, I'm a human and there are other humans in the world, things become a lot easier to digest. So I'm sort of coming up with this as I'm going here, but I think I'm ready to say I fundamentally believe all this gets better with a strong, strong sort of like rooted foundation in human to human physical, not physical, but like interaction in real life.
Doing so opens doors for you. So my rule is people who never touch grass are people who never get to eat ass.
Well, sure. I mean, they go hand in hand, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe you can apply my rule. Maybe you should apply instead Thumpers Rule. You know what Thumpers Rule is?
Thumper? Like, isn't that like a Winnie the Pooh character or some shit?
Close.
Very close.
Half a point. So you're at
one and a half points.
1.5 points
What's
today.
the over-under for the episode? Because I'm about to hit it.
Thumper is a little rabbit from the movie Bambi.
Oh, Bambi.
Yeah.
And Thumper offered some sage-like advice that you may have seen attributed to like your friend's mom.
Yeah.
That friend is lying. Your friend saw Bambi and Thumper is where they got this advice. And the advice is...
Yeah.
If you can't say something nice, don't say nothing at all.
Way easier said than
My
done.
mom said if you
I
can't
personally-
say anything nice.
Yeah, I personally prefer people who never touch grass are people who never eat ass.
Yeah.
But if you want that, you're gonna whatever. In it.
Yeah, I mean, they're kind of interchangeable when you really think about it.
I'm gonna get a little plaque made of me saying people who never touch grass are people who never eat ass.
Can we just make that right now, please?
Put that on some giant bomb merch.
Yeah.
Are you gonna have to do grass and ass though to really get the?
Yeah.
I want to know like what the visual accompaniment with that quote is though.
It's someone sitting on some grass.
Good.
But all you see is their back and ass.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Ooh.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's good.
We done it.
Okay. Think about why you are arguing online. Having taken into account Thumpers Rule, think about why you are arguing online and whether it's really worth it. What do you gain by convincing a random person on the internet that pineapple does or does not belong on pizza? And you also need to recognize that once you start an argument, rarely will you be able to bring it to a definitive end. You'll never be able to conclude this argument and think, great, that worked out. That person's been convinced.
Yeah.
Instead, you'll have to start ignoring the person, at which point you'll struggle while knowing they're still out there chatting shit. Or you have to mute them or block them and hope that you can just move on, which is often much harder to do than you might realize. Basically, what you're doing by starting an argument is you're inviting a monkey to hop on your back and start screaming into your ears for a few hours, days, even weeks. And at the end of it, you'll have nothing to show for it. Here's a little trick that I like to use. Put your phone in airplane mode, write out the tweet that you want to write in response, read it 3 times, take a deep breath, and then delete it. 9 times out of 10, then take your phone off airplane mode. 9 times out of 10, I think doing that will make you feel better. You'll have given yourself enough time for the heat to dissipate, and also you'll be able to have almost kind of ritualistically say the thing without engaging the person. Also, before you reply to something that has got you heated, wait. Give yourself at least 15 to 30 minutes to cool off, and maybe even think about what you're going to say. By doing that, either you'll realize it's not worth it, or you'll formulate a reply that allows you to respond from a position of strength. But overall, trust me, the best response is no response. Just don't do it.
Agreed.
But if you are going to respond and you've applied the other rules, keep in mind that the other person is a human. You can be sassy or sarky. I'm always doing that. Like, I'm very sassy online when I reply. I give myself like 1 or 2 beefs a week.
Yeah.
1 or 2 beefs a week.
Your allotment. Your Your
And
allowance.
always, if you see me arguing on Twitter with someone, you can with 100% certainty know that I am currently taking a shit, because I only allow myself to argue with people on Twitter when I'm doing a poopy.
Okay.
And once I leave the
Set those boundaries. Yep.
the poopy room, the argument is over.
So did you just call your bathroom the poopy room?
The poopy room.
What do you call yours?
The bathroom.
No, it's
no, it's
disgusting.
poopy room. Come on.
It's the poopy
It's
room.
gross.
So you can be sassy or snarky, but never be degrading, never be spiteful, and never come from a place of anger or hate. That will never work out. And in the public forum of social media, you'll be judged as harshly as the other person, and people will definitely think less of you.
Yeah.
So you might think I've won this argument, but the stuff that you said to get there, everyone else will use to think less of you.
It will stay with you.
It will stay with you, yeah. At the end of the day, I would suggest you apply Tamor Hussein's rule to using Twitter successfully. And this is one that I've talked about on here and Jeff's made a graphic.
I know.
And
what
so
this is.
we are going to use it. Treat Twitter like a room that I enter into, fart, and then leave. A poopy room of sorts.
Sure. Every room can be a poopy room, just to be clear.
The second is my other golden rule. Lucy, you know this golden rule. I've told it to you many times. Tell the people.
I live my life by this doctrine.
Tell the people my golden rule.
See the drama. Don't be the drama.
There you go. And that is why we argue on the internet and how, hopefully, you can stop.
It's very good.
Ta-da.
It's very good. I'm cautiously optimistic that we now will have, maybe it's very wishful thinking, but as the generations go on, you now have a generation of parents who grew up with the internet, right? So, like my parents, your parents, they don't know what happened, right?
Yeah. So yeah, my intention behind this episode was hopefully if there are any parents out there who have either kids who are online right now or are about to be online, show them this episode and be like, hey, before you start getting online, this is what is going on. This is what is happening. It's human psychology that you are kind of predisposed to argue. Don't fall into the trap. Yeah. So with any luck, people will be able to use this episode as kind of like a training manual, because that's something that doesn't exist. When you go online, you immediately are bombarded with people being like, your idea and your perspective and your opinions suck. And then the natural response is to defend it from a place of like, you might be thinking that you're doing the right thing and you're like very innocent about it, but there is a mechanism and psychology and like human nature playing an impact behind it that will kind of drag you in and force you to fight in the mud with others. Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Like all the rules that parents pass down to their kids the last, starting like 50 years ago, it's not that it's useless, but like it is a much different world and human interaction is changed forever. I think it might be true. I think, I have a child who's already playing video games online, but not interacting, right? It's just this sort of faceless, textless thing, but that will happen soon. And I have so much experience and so much information to help hopefully shape that and temper expectations and sort of just be a guiding voice in that regard. Like it's got to get better, right? Like it's education.
Yeah. And hopefully it will get better if we start by doing stuff like this, where we're like, hey, this is what's going on. And these are the pitfalls. Just try and avoid them. At the very least, people won't have excuses about it, like, and to be like, oh, I didn't know this was going on, or what am I supposed to do? You can be like, no, this is why it's happening, and you've been made aware of it. So, I'm currently looking at some of the replies to Jeff.
Well, okay,
we've got
You ain't God.
You ain't God from one Jeff Grubb. We've got a quote tweet, someone saying preaching the truth.
There you
You
go.
love to see it. There you go.
Made some enemies, made some friends.
No,
what can I say?
you're wrong. That's polite. I see you on the wrong side of history then. Did a hinge prompt write this? We got a how dare you, which is great.
Yep.
Yeah, nothing too incendiary.
Nothing too volatile. Who's to say where a pineapple does or does not belong? Ooh.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is this a philosophical
stance, or have you ever actually had a slice of pizza with pineapple on it?
That person gets it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I can't believe you've done this. Where you did something happen on TVos? Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
5000s immediately figured it out. What about curry sauce, banana, and peanuts?
That
Together?
sounds all right.
That
Yeah,
sounds
that sounds
all right.
okay.
For the record, I'm very pro pineapple on pizza. I love pineapple on pizza.
I've only ever had it when drunk. So.
You know, just to set the record straight, like I've had it a bunch of times. It's not
Yeah.
bad. Like it's
So, like,
it's fine.
One of the things my mum is, I think I've said this before, but like if you make fun of food in front of my mum will beat your ass.
Oh shit.
Like she will fucking kick your ass. She doesn't care what it is. Like, so whenever people do that thing on Twitter where it's like, look at this person, what they're doing with food, unless it's really ridiculous, like making fruit punch in a toilet bowl.
right.
Like,
Which
Yeah.
we've covered.
that's out of the question. But if it's like, hey, I made chocolate hummus.
yeah.
If whenever I see people being like, that is the most offensive, that is
No, that's
disgusting, I
good.
cannot believe you're doing that, my mom would kick that person's ass and be
So
like,
don't yuck
don't
anyone's
talk shit
yum.
up.
Don't
yeah.
yuck
my mum-
yums.
well, my mom and like, I don't know, it's not, maybe it's like my culture to a degree, but my mom very specifically has like a reverence for food regardless. She's like, no one should ever disrespect food because there are people in this world that are literally dying without it.
Yeah.
So you should, doesn't matter what it is. If you don't like something, that's fine. Just keep it to yourself. But you should never be telling other people that their food that they have made or are eating is bad. Ever.
Well, don't show Mama Hussein Jeff's Twitter.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also don't you dare tell her you're behind it.
Thank you for watching another episode of The Very Online Show. Jeff, where you at?
I think it's very clear by now. At Jeff Bacalar, please don't reply to the pizza tweet. Thank you.
Lucy, where are you at?
I'm at Lucy James Games, and I have no strong feelings one way or the other about anything.
I am at Tomor H on everything. I love pineapple on pizza. I don't like tuna on pizza, but I never make a big deal out of it because, you know, whatever, who cares? And remember, if you can, pick up a Giant Bomb premium subscription.
Pick up a
It's
butt?
what-
Did you just say?
Pick up a butt.
Pick up a butt, and if you have sat on grass, you can eat that ass. We'll see you next week.
People who don't touch grass are people who don't eat ass.